Alex and myself, we met at MIT. We were really good friends back then, and we wanted to build a product that has a really big impact and then can solve meaningful problems for a large population. That's how we got started.
I mean, yes, but you also went through 3 hits.
We did. At the early days of Y Combinator, we pivot 3 times. The first version of Deel is we were a crypto payment platform for influencers and content creators. And that was in January 2019. But 2 weeks after crypto market crashed, no one wants to get paid in crypto anymore. We literally have no users and zero market. And we started to think, okay, so if we cannot do crypto, what else can we develop, right? But the thesis is still we want to build a payment platform for talents that will be able to get paid easily. So we added fiat, and we started to interview every single company in our batch. There were about 200 companies and 400 founders. And then whenever we have an opportunity, we would sit down with them. We'd ask them what type of talents they are hiring, how do they pay them, what are the problems that we can solve for them, right? And then through all of those researches and conversations, we started to develop a product that initially at the time that we graduated from Y Combinator, it is a payment platform for independent contractors so that people will be able to get paid regardless of their location. And then companies will be hiring international independent contractors globally.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Shuo. When you're pivoting, how do you know when you just need to keep trying versus you need to make a small pivot versus you need to make a dramatic pivot? What was the process of your pivots? Was it intuition? Was it data? How did you know when to pivot? Talk us through that.
I think at the time, YC is about to build something that people want. Okay. So when you first deliver a product, you do a product launch, no one wants to use that product. That is a strong signal that, okay, so you need to think something else, right? So whether it is a completely new product, new direction, or whether you need to develop a better solution based on the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And then I think for founders, it is all about conviction. So if you are passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve, you will always try to talk with your potential users, be able to develop solutions, and then be able to eventually find a really good one. Yeah. And then keep on going from there.
So maybe speaking of pivots, one of the big changes when I invested, you guys were very committed to being software only. And you said, we'll never have human in the loop. We're going to be contractor SaaS, no matter what. And then 2 months later, I think I found you and Alex, and you're like, we're trying this EOR thing. And, and now it's, I think, one of our biggest lines of business. So it was a dramatic change. And, obviously also human in the loop businesses tend to have worse margins and tougher growth profiles. So you guys, 1, changed your mind on your fundamental model. The 2 have managed to make it feel very software-like. Talk about that kind of evolution.
I think at the time, again, it is where the market is telling us, right? So what our users want. At the time, I think when we started to chat about the Series A, as you said, we have 100K in revenue, but we already have several hundred clients that are using Deel platform. And then from those several hundred clients, we started to ask them and then start already thinking about, okay, what is the next stage? What is our second growth curve, right? Independent contractor payments is a great product, but what else, right? And then very quickly, we realized that companies not only hire independent contractors, the majority of their workforce is actually employees, full-time employees. And we need to have a way to be able to support their majority of the workforce, right? So, which is employees. And then automatically we started to think, okay, in order to support that, what are some products that we need to build, and what are some other features and then solutions that we need to start to explore, right? But at the time, based on what you see, about Deel, right? So we were very small. We just graduated from YC, and then we're very early but growing very fast. How did what did you see in me and Alex and then make you to decide to invest in us?
That's a good question. I mean, okay, so I think that for a lot of investors, often they sort of decide in the first few minutes, and then a lot of it is working backwards. So I think, when you meet certain people, they give you a feeling of momentum, and they're obviously obsessed enough with their market that they've come up with insights that are non-obvious, things that you haven't thought of or wouldn't think of, or actually seem to fly in face of conventional wisdom. So I think that was one, just this sort of depth with which you could both talk about the market was really impressive. There's a sense of inevitability that you both have, and, both in different ways, but just sort of like, this is going to happen. Do you want to be a part of it or not? But Remy is a little bit of the flex that's helpful for founders to have, not in an inauthentic way, but just like, look, when you're like, look, this is happening, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. But if you're not going to be, that's okay. You can invest at a higher price, the Tiramiri much later. And then look at the other actually thing is, we focus a lot on, hey, we only back a single company per market, so let's make sure we're working with the number one team. And at the time, there was actually a bunch of teams that were pretty far ahead of you guys. Papaya, I think, was at a 10 million run rate. Remote was somewhere in between. You guys were at 100K. But you, sir, when I came to you with that question, I distinctly remember you saying, yeah, but that's all human in the loop BS. We're all software. And then, of course, you evolved that 2 months later. But at the time, you sort of redefined the way that the market should operate. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. We should invest in the all software one. Yeah.
I think at the time, we started to build entities globally. Today, we have close to 240 entities across 140 different countries. And then we're just going to keep on going and then establish our entities in every single country possible. And at the time, I didn't understand, but the term these days is we're building an infrastructure company, right? So how do you think that matters today in this AI world, right? And then there are a lot of discussion around the enterprise software companies are just not going to grow as fast as they used to be, right? And then AI models is just going to take control and then take it over.
I'm very skeptical of these narratives. It's interesting to look at the kind of dissonance in the conversation. So in February, we had the SaaS apocalypse, and all SaaS was over, and everything was cooked, and everybody was terrified. And I hope that didn't discourage any founders from going down the journey in SaaS, because here we are. The last month was the best month for SaaS stocks in 5 years. They've done amazing. So, these narratives change so rapidly. There's also this belief that, OpenAI and Anthropic will win it all. So what's the point? Why don't we all just give up and go home? And yet they've done these enormous partnerships for forward deployed, and so has Google. So they obviously can't do it all. But I was over-rotate on some of the narratives. That's point one. I do think, though, that the areas in which there is no reason for the models to get interested is areas that are sort of regulated or involve liability. As an agent, or a model can't be liable for a decision. And there's so many aspects of the economy that involve liability and regulation. So I think actually you guys were, I don't know how much of it was sort of deliberate or unintended. The fact that we've bought payroll engines and built a lot of payment infrastructure, I think sets us up well against others that are more visualization layers, which I think are somewhat at risk.
So speaking of that, we actually did a lot of M&A, right, throughout our journey. We're a 7-year-old company, and we did close to 10 acquisitions already. As in, thinking of that is kind of crazy for
or crazy.
Or let's see, usually goes totally wrong. Yeah. But the thing is that made us to grow so fast, right? So to start with, we're a independent contractor payment platform. And then today, then it's just one single product, right? So, and over the past 6 years, we scaled, we built not only payment, but also HR, also global payroll, also benefits, IT, integration, and we're a full platform. And then you have 17 different products that you can use off your platform. And whatever you need to manage your workforce, domestic, global, we will be able to help you, right? So that is the evolution, and then that is how made us how we grow so fast.
Yeah, maybe talk more about that, Shuo. So, okay, first of all, how many of them are products acquisitions, like a product capability you wanted versus team? And then two, how did you actually integrate them into the company? Because that seems like the sort of failure mode for moat. Did you think the acquisition makes rational sense at the outset, but the acquirer fails to integrate the acquiree?
So you're absolutely right? So there are two categories of acquisitions. Number one is product. Number two is revenue. So for most of Deel's acquisitions, we focus on the product. We acquired a company called Sophie. It is very IT focused, and we integrated with their products within a month of time. And then their team the culture is amazing and is very much aligned with Deel. So that is a really smooth transition. But for a lot of the companies out there that we acquired is a very traditional legacy payroll product. So that is a little bit challenging. Not only that we need to align the culture, but also they need to meet our expectations as well. And then in that sense, we acquired local payroll calculators, local payroll engines, but also we need to understand the expertise very localized, and we need to build knowledge base based on the payroll experts out there, right? So that takes time, and then but overall we're building a lot of database and then a lot of compliance, and then build the fundamentals based on those deep knowledge and then expertise that we can get. Yeah.
And maybe let me ask you one other thing, because when I think about what's unconventional about Deel, there's a lot of things. One is the M&A. But maybe more relevant to this group is just the time when you went to multi-product from single product. Because the conventional wisdom, again, but we always tell, I can't believe how much bad advice I've...
Well, we're a best student.
No. I mean, none of it seems to apply. Is that look, you want to dominate your primary market with a narrow edge before you move into other adjacencies. And the rational thing is almost always to kind of extend your advantage in your home market. And yet you guys did Contractor SaaS when we met. You launched EOR a few months later. And how many products you have now?
We have 17 products.
So why? How did you know it was time to move on to the next one? And most importantly, you're the CRO. How do you run a sales effort across 17 products?
To answer the first question, how we decided to experience or develop a new product is we are very close with our clients, right? So again, as I mentioned earlier, how Deel pivots 3 times and we finally find the product market fit is we help with 200 companies in our batch. They are all my potential clients, right? And then even after YC times, we ask our clients all the time, right? So what else can we do for you? And then other than payroll, other than hiring, what else, right? And then how can we make your life easier? Just through those conversations, and that it made us very clear, and then understand what our future product roadmap going to be like, right? And then it is we already, I'm pretty sure Alex already mapped out what we want to develop and then how this platform going to be year 2. But the thing is, we just needed the time to execute on it, right? And then for a fast-growing company, also I think our culture is we always look for the second growth curve, the third growth curve, right? And that is just keep on pushing us to grow faster and then move faster. Yeah.
So, okay, Nick, talk about the AI current vision. I'll tell you, we haven't had this conversation before, so I'll surprise you, but I'd say 6 months ago, I wasn't so happy with our AI progress. And I think for many of us, of course, we can't wake up in the morning and say that, hey, we're not an AI company. We all have to be pilled and this and that. And, but sometimes maybe in the middle of the night, we ask ourselves, how good are we really? And then what we recently shipped with Akai is tremendous. Feels like the company really accelerated its path and has a more ambitious view of what we're doing with AI than it did. Maybe just talk about the journey, talk a little about what Akai is.
So I think the pivotal point of Deel's AI adoption is after you gave us this presentation. You remember we were in Dubai?
Yes.
Yeah, earlier this year. Every year, Deel is a fully remote, fully distributed company, right? So every year we have a big sales kickoff. We pick up one location, we put together 2,000 people, and then we align the goals of the year, and then we give them a product update and the company core strategy. Well, the big topic of this year sales kickoff is AI adoption, and you give us an amazing presentation. You give us a presentation actually, like I think even before that, so 3 months. November in Cape Town, we were together, and then the really change is after this February adoption, and also I just feel like the atropic model just become better. After that, right? So literally we grow our seats from atropic from 100 to 7,000 overnight. Even the atropic sales team was super surprised, and then they reach out to me. And then say that what happened with Deel? How did you guys make 7,000 people to use Anthropic overnight? Again, can I talk with you? And then what is the strategy, right? And then ever since that, we incentivize every single Deel teammate to use Anthropic, to use cloud to build their own app, right? And then it's not only today. At the time, I would say 3 months ago, every single individual sales reps will be able to build some kind of AI apps and help them help themselves to improve their close rate sales productivity. But I think today AI for Deel is not only a productivity tool. It is not only help our software team to write more code or customer success to handle more client requests, customer support to close more tickets, sales to be able to sell more, but also it helped company Deel to build a system, right? So and it helps us to build really agentic workflows and then develop agents to actually do the work end to end, right? So I give you a very simple example. So Deel, we're a payroll company. Payroll is our core product. And then, but in order to run payroll, it is actually a very manual, manual labor heavy task, right? So you have to upload the paperwork, log into the government portal, and then verify the payments, and then download it and then upload it to Deel platform. That is last year how we do things. This year we build agents, and then the agents will be able to automatically download the payment information, verify with the government, and then do the calculations, send feedback to clients, upload the pay slips, and then the pay slips is ready for talent employees to get access to, right? That's just saved us 1,000 hours per month, for our operational team to do the work. And then within that pace, you will be able to add a lot more volume and then maintain our headcount.
I mean, I've got a few thoughts on this too about that. So, one, I think a really clarifying question for all of us as founders is, are you happy or sad when the models get better? And the reason for that is I think there's a style of effort where you sort of take something that the model's not good at today and you extend the model capabilities through engineering. And now you're able to offer something that's sort of the model plus, but the model is sort of improving exponentially. So then often it will sort of leapfrog whatever you've done. And now it's it's frustrating because it's obviated the need for your thing, but then it's so hard to delete all the hard work that you've created. So I think one is, we want our businesses to be better and deliver proportionally more value to our customer when the model gets better. So I think that's one question. I think for companies, the big transition I saw, in the way I would sort of articulate what happened at Deel was it went from improving individual productivity to full automation of business functions and workflows. You really have to be able to do 100% of something, which we all know is dramatically harder than doing 90% of something. But that's how you get the real unlock, full automation. And maybe sort of most philosophically, the way I think about it is if you're able to be a point of economic diffusion for model progressing into an industry segment, I work with a company that sells to credit unions. Credit unions are never going to figure out how to take the intelligence primitive and do all the things that they want to do. And then the type of ambition they have, they want to hire more people. They want to phone their customers on their birthdays. It's awesome. And they've never been told it's okay to dream those dreams. So I think that the kind of opportunity that we have is to build the product that kind of delivers those benefits and help our customers dream the dream.
That's what we're seeing as well, from our customers. And every day I talk with clients, and then they ask us, okay, so I love what I'm seeing today, but what is your AI strategy? Like, how can you help me to develop more, AI into my day-to-day workflows, right? And then, that's why Deel launched the Archive, right? So Archive is literally a product that study client, enterprises workflows, have access to all the data points that possible, and then develop AI agents to be able to to do a lot of those manual operational related works, right? So, and then that product has been doing very well. Our team has been very busy. I think within the past 1 month that we launched the product, we talked with close to 200 clients already.
Amazing. Yeah, that's, I think there's a good point in here, which is, I think for the traditional enterprise, they're not looking to buy an AI SKU for X. They're looking for an AI sort of solutions provider because they are being told by their board, hey, you got to figure out AI. What's the AI thing? They're just sort of desperate to get somebody who's closer to the metal to help inform them. So I think that's a lot of our opportunity. Let's sort of be that trusted partner for them, even if it's a little outside of our core thing. The buyers are buying, or I think it's more important to sell now than it is to have some intellectual concept of a moat.
So Sequoia just launched a regional article today, right? So they were saying that they gave the founders a direction of the next $1 trillion opportunities. Okay. Yeah. So in your point of view, what do you think those opportunities are?
Oh, that's interesting. I read the article. I think it's very hard for investors to predict that. I think there's a little bit of hubris in that. I mean, all respect to Sequoia, but I really think that you guys are the ones that invent the future, and we kind of follow your lead. So we had actually, when we invested in Deel, we'd been looking all over for, hey, what is the next evolution of work? What does it look like? How do you unbundle work from jobs? And, people aren't doing the kind of 30-year thing and get the gold watch anymore. So we had this whole conceptual thesis. We had this insight. And then the company that ended up sort of fulfilling that was totally different from what we had imagined. It was Deel, and your observation was, hey, that's sort of global talent, default global companies, much bigger global markets. And so I just think it's difficult for us to articulate what the $1 trillion opportunity is. We'll know it when one of you guys build it, and we'll hopefully invest alongside you on the way.
And then Deel today, we not only manage human beings, but also we manage AI agents, right? Literally, they're on our platform. They run case lists, and then
is there an AI HR yet?
Yeah. I won't go if it is confined yet. So I will look into that.
Yeah, please do. Yes, exactly.
But I think that is just going to be the normal for a lot of companies out there, right? So what do you see? How do we regulate those AI agents, right? So that they don't do crazy things.
I mean, I think you got to let them do some crazy things, So I actually think that right now the risk of under adoption is way higher than the risk of over adoption. I think the kind of architecture that I'm seeing in the enterprise that's emerging is everybody's going to have a personal agent that kind of sees everything that they see and can extend their personal work. And then there's going to be agents that do act like employees, where they have their own email, their own login, they get their own training, they have their own point of view through their sort of programming of their own memories. I think both of those things will coexist in the enterprise, but it's going to be a strange world. It's going to be very, very interesting. I certainly don't think there's going to be no humans. And I think the kind of work we're all going to get to do is a lot more fulfilling. So what the agents aren't great at, we've all had this experience, is new thinking. And of course, exception handling is going to have to be handled by people. So maybe let me change directions a little bit and talk about your sort of scaling story, Shu, which is you're the CRO of a $1.5 billion company. I can't think of another example where a non-CEO founder has scaled with the company in that way. How has your role changed? How do you do it? Have you hired experts? Is everyone young hustlers? Or you can just talk about how you made that transition over 5 years.
Yeah. So I definitely learned a lot from my team. Yeah. And I had zero sales experience or background before Deel. And then I studied mechanical engineering, and then I was building robots at MIT. And then after that, my first company is a hardware company. I was the CTO of the company. And then when it comes to Deel, someone needs to do go to market. Someone needs to do sales. And then Alex, my co-founder, is in charge of product, and automatically I need to take over that role. And then I think just because I am the co-founder of the company and I'm in charge of sales, and I know a lot of the I know a lot of what client needs, like what kind of story that the clients would love to hear, and how like we can develop the product much faster and much closer with our clients. And also because of my engineering background and training, like our sales team is very analytical, data driven, and we build like really good processes and the systems to scale the team. And then today, we are very global since day one, right? So we didn't only focus on US, even though we're a US company to start with, but we also had someone to focus on EMEA. We also had someone to focus on APAC, and we just keep on trying. And then at the time that we found a really good product market fit, it made us to scale very easily. Yeah, and I hired some really good experts, like I was saying, on the team, and learned a lot. But I think they are also very young. Like speaking of Chris, speaking of Ilona, right? So they're still with us, and Meltem as well, right?
Yes.
And then I think we grow together along the way. Yeah. And the Meltem, speaking of our marketing strategy, at the very beginning, for the past for the first 5 years, we have been focusing on acquisition. So that means every single dollar that we spend, we expect a return. But starting from last year and then this year, we started to focus on brand awareness because we are profitable. Where our board is pushing us to spend more money to gain more brand awareness. So that's why we sponsor Arsenal. And you may see Deel billboards all over the city, and if you take subways, right, so you will see Deel branding as well. Yeah.
But given how performance oriented you guys are, like, what's your way to value that partnership? Because I know it's not just vibes of you guys, right?
I think to sponsor Arsenal, there are actually a lot of stories behind that, right? So first of all, it needs to be available. And then second of all, location really matters. Yeah. Because it is in London, we have a lot of clients in London. We have a lot of European clients that actually very would love to fly to London to see the Arsenal game, right? And then it is in a way, yes, it is brand awareness, but also it helps us with the pipeline building. And then today with the AI leading the world, offline events, in-person events, and then be able to build the trust face-to-face actually matter a lot, right? It's not only about, communicating with AI agent online, but in reality, Deel is a real company, and that would host events. We love to host all of our prospects and clients, and you see us, and then you can trust us. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense here. In recently, we talk a lot about this, which is we always said that relationships are our most valuable sort of asset. I think now more so than ever. Should we flip to some of the questions? I think we sent out a survey, so there's a few questions that folks had converged on, and then we'll give it up in Q&A.
Yeah, we have. Do you want to pick one? Sure.
Yeah. Hi. Please say.
Why is Anish giving you so much good advice over the years? Just kidding. All right. Speed versus trust in compliance categories. So this is actually a really good question because obviously compliance is one of those things with asymmetric downside if you get it wrong. But as a company, your whole thing is momentum and increasing the momentum over time. So how did you guys decide where to go fast versus where to be perfect?
I think at the early days of Deel, I don't know if Alex ever shared with you this story.
There we go. Now it comes out.
Yeah. So you remember, we told you we want to start to establish entities globally, and we want to be able to hire without employees for our clients, right? So I remember we had a client, they have an urgent need. They said, we need to onboard this employee in Hungary, immediately within 1 week. Can you do that? Of course we can do that. And then we just need to find a way. And then there's no way that we will be able to establish that entity in Hungary within 1 month, even not to mention 1 week. So we realized that we have an employee, and then he has an entity in Hungary, and we use that entity, and we onboarded the client. And then the client, after the first one, they actually scaled with us until today, and then they have 100 UR on Deel, just because we solved that problem for them, and then they had an immediate and urgent need, and we were there for them. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Huh. Okay, cool. Let me go to the next one here. Let's see. Okay, this is actually also a good one. So I think there's kind of two ways to pick what you work on. One is something that's personally interesting, solve your own problem is conventional wisdom, versus, hey, just go after a market opportunity. Let's be a pure capitalist. Let's do a market map and study something and decide to go after it. Do you have a point of view on which matters most? What's the best approach?
If I understand the question first is is your conviction matter or does market matter?
Is it something that is personally important to you, like solve one of my day-to-day problems, or is it more important to go after what, intellectually seems like a big market?
I think I am a very, I think a big market matters because if you're a really big market, you can, solve all kinds of problems. And then any problem is a good problem to solve. And then any solution that you develop potentially is a good solution. So I didn't feel like it just because my first company is a very small market and it's a very niche market as well. And then after that, I decided to work on something that has a very large cap. So Deel, it is a payment, payroll, and then also everyone needs to get paid, right? So automatically it's a very large market. Cool. Should we ask questions for the audience? Yeah. So whoever, yeah.
I was asked about just sort of your year one. Are you able to get the first enterprise client if something gets big as CLYTE? How are you able to give such a big company, big companies trust you?
Yeah, I can answer this question. I repeat the question. Yeah, the question is how did Deel, to close our first ever enterprise client? What was our approach then, right? I think first of all, typical a Silicon Valley textbook will be hey, do not worry enterprise clients early on, right? And you focus on the smaller ones. It's easier for you to close it. You will get revenue fast. And but the thing is, I think it actually matters when you develop product and you think about your enterprise client. And Deel's first ever enterprise client is a company called The Real, and then they actually came inbound. Yeah. And then it was only 6 months in when we launched the product, and then I started to realize that, The Real, it was a public company, and then they had a need to pay someone in Brazil, and then their CTO jumped on the phone call with me, and then they told me that I need to pay a team 10 people in Brazil tomorrow. Can you do that? I started to realize that yes. Not only the payment platform is good for SMBs, but also enterprise companies and clients have such needs as well. And then after that, we started to think, okay, if we can serve enterprise clients within relatively faster pace, what now can we build for them? Yeah. So I don't know, in today's AI world, right? So enterprise have unlimited budget to purchase AI versus software. What are you seeing?
Yeah, look, I think the whole thing, there's been such a big conversation on X about moats and all that, but I think, it really does matter to just buy while the customer, or sell while the customers are buying. And right now, because everybody wants to buy AI, I'd say the most important thing is just get distribution. And you can get distribution with the Fortune 500, Fortune 2000, and that would have been impossible 3 or 4 years ago. The door's open. So while the door's open, sell them something that has value, and as their solutions provider, figure out what the kind of durable thing is and compound from there. So it's a little unscientific, but that's the thing that we've seen that's worked for us. Yep. Yeah.
You are present in 150 countries, you seem to have 70 products, your operation is very broad. Can you recall a time when you said no to a new product line or to an expansion of your business small?
The question is, we have 70 different products today. And then along our journey, have we ever said no to any product that proposed to us or came up to us? Yeah. I guess I think there are many of them, right? So staffing, like, automatically our clients have a lot of staffing needs, and then they want us to become a recruiting company as well. They want us to be able to identify, source talents, and close the talents for them. And then still today, we're not a staffing model. We have a marketplace for talents, for talent pool, and our clients will be able to search and then be able to source themselves, but we're not a end-to-end recruiting agency. Yeah, it doesn't fit in our model. We're a tech company versus another traditional sales company.
Cool. Thank you, Shuo and Anish. That goes so sure. Like, everyone talking about AI precision or landing work at this. Like, your company. Thank you. Yeah. Like, in our company, we don't have an HR department. We have an HR department, which means Asian and human resources. So my question is for Deel, which is like the golden standard of HR. For Deel itself, what's the largest challenge or bottleneck for you to embrace AI?
Thank you for the question. If I understand it correctly, one could we use AI to replace the HR department in level Deel, right? Yeah. So we actually didn't have our HR function until we were 1,000 people. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. Yes. Our off-stake, we have people ops, and they report to that. Yeah, and then they're these ops managers. They're not traditional HR background, right? Yeah, right. And I think that is the best decision we have ever made. Yeah. And then I think to have ops to run HR and then build a really good process is going to be the future. Yeah. And then I think HR department should be focused, not focusing on the day-to-day manual tasks or answering questions, but also focus on career development for your talent, more QA layer, or even executive coach, or I think to really develop the talent skill sets and be able to build deep connections with the talents, I think that would be the value add for future HR department. Yeah, and a lot of the HR tasks should be streamlined and it should be able to be replaced by agents. Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, thank you guys for this. When you at Biomedical back then, what was the growth rate in the first few months? And then maybe for a question to Anish would be, what is the growth rate right now you would be looking for as an investor in the AI startups in the early days?
Please. What was the growth rate in the first few months or a year?
Yeah, so for Deel, I don't remember first year, but I did we did 20x and then 16x the second year, and then 12x, and then 4x, 2x. Yeah, those are our full special. Yeah, I don't remember from.
Yeah, I actually remember. I think the first year we went 0 to 4. The second year we went 4 to 55. And I remember being like, this projection is ridiculous, Shuo. Like, we're not going 4 to 45 or 30 or whatever you said. We ended at 55. And we had the COVID tailwind behind us, but then COVID ended. The growth rate didn't slow down.
Did not slow down.
Which was actually a crazy moment because everybody, our competitors were also beneficiaries of that, but us more so than them. And then, when it stopped, we didn't. And I think this kind of leads to your second question. What are the metrics for a good AI company right now? Look, I think a lot of it is relative velocity. So there's two ways I look at metrics. So how are your peers in your industry growing? Because that's kind of existence proof of what's possible. Are you going to increase as fast as the best is? The second thing is the metrics are often misunderstood as some sort of present value thing. I think instead it's like, hey, what are the assumptions that are required to be validated for the whole business model to work? And how do these metrics inform which assumptions are correct? So, and obviously the more data you have, the higher confidence. So I think that's sort of how we put the whole sausage together. Yeah. I know that's not a perfect answer, but.
Hi, I wanted to go back to the brand awareness talk a little bit. Your growth rate obviously shows that you were able to get a really concentrated amount or a concentrated target of your market early on. Do you think the story that you mentioned, things like what you did for the company that needed employment in Hungary, and those type of clients that ended up, holding and going through with the relationship were the reason that you grew early on, and they, the full story of like 100 users that love you were the reason that you started growing at that rate that you mentioned, or there was like a bigger brand awareness strategy from that earlier moment that contributed to that? And what was that strategy? Because I feel like for a lot of us in an earlier stage, that brand awareness is like a very big bottleneck that we can't go through, and we can't find a way to do it. It's not a formulated path to go through.
And I think for early days, Duo solved a vulnerable problem, and the Duo solved the problem that not a lot of other vendors or companies will be able to solve. So that made us unique, right? And then based on that, we added additional product lines that, also it is a very, very large market, yeah. And then we didn't really grow our brand or awareness for the past, for the first 5 years, and we'll only focus on acquisition cost, yeah. And I think for startups, I don't know if it makes sense for you to spend a lot of money very early on to build your brand awareness, because you may try a lot of direction and then try all kinds of different narratives and then plan your product market fit, right? So it's just a journey. Yeah.
I think that's exactly right. We were, I think, the only company that did POR plus contractor SaaS. So we had a unique proposition in the market, and the real, I think people desperately needed the problem solved enough such that they would take a risk on a new vendor.
Can I add a quick follow-up? How did those people hear about this solution? That was maybe more so my question.
Those people hear about the solution.
Yeah. Where we first started is with YC. Yeah, a lot of the companies in my batch are our clients. We talk with them, right? So we explain them what is Deel. They just use Deel, and then that is how we first started. And then after graduation from YC, we did a lot of content on our website, and then I do believe SEO helped us at the time. Today, you have Geo, right? So you need to rank yourself, build content so that when people ask ChatGPT or Cough, you need to be there, right? So those do not cost a lot of money. It's not it doesn't cost you millions of dollars. It's probably $10,000, $20,000. You will be able to drop really good traffic already. Yeah. And then after that, I think it was just raised from Andreessen, and then people start to see us, the fundraising news, and then we grow from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you turn it on?
No, I don't think it's on. Switch it up.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, right.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Great talk. I had a question on a topic you mentioned, which I think is so on the loop, which is trust. You mentioned. So especially in the age of AI, where trust is the one fate that can be faked, what strategy did you use to build trust with your customers, especially now with AI?
This is a good question. Alex, my co-founder, and myself, we often talk with each other and have this discussion. What type of company is Deel, right? So are we an HR company, payroll company, IT company, workforce management company? What category we are? And then we realize that we're actually in the business of trust, because we pay people, we hire people. People rely on Deel to get salary, right? And then by the end of the month, if they don't get paid, it could be a disaster for them, right? So just make sure that we will be able to pay talents on time every single month. It is just automatically give us a lot of trust, right? And then along the way, it is about how confined we are, and it is about how we tell our clients what to do, especially if they have zero experience or zero knowledge when they open a new team in a different country, right? So, and all of those, we build a really nice product really nice knowledge base and then really good workflows and then to help our clients. Yeah. Well, what do you think, like, these days, how do AI companies build trust with clients?
I mean, I think that the in-person relationships really help. And I think in the early days, as you said, your reputation was your brand, your personal reputation. So I think you guys had a great reputation of YC, good a small number of people that knew you personally and were willing to take the risk. And like, doing good things for a small number of people tends to compound. But I agree. I think it's more important than ever. Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be our last question.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa, and my question is for Anish. Yeah. I think we're at a very interesting time as to where we're seeing more and more young founders raise, build, and exit at a rate that we haven't seen before. And so I'm curious how you're evaluating the difference in value and comparing, a young founder with unique cultural insight. Maybe they're a little bit more technical SaaS, technologically savvy, AI aware, versus an older founder with decades of, field experience, with gone through, raising, exiting, and just have that experience from before.
It's a great question. I think it's different for different markets. Like, I think all of our data shows that in consumer, actually, first-time founders tend to be more successful. So I think for consumer, you have to have a high willingness to be embarrassed. Consumer tech is often embarrassing to work on because everyone's like, what are you spending your life on? It seems sort of silly or frivolous. You think of things like Snap, and it also seems to fly in the face of conventional wisdom. People will never share their locations. People will never have a romantic relationship with an AI. So I think for products like consumer, having a beginner's mind and, feeling like you have less to lose socially is a big advantage. But I think there are some categories that people have been trying things in for years where actually studying the market is really beneficial. You can study it and decide to discard all the lessons, but it doesn't make sense to have not studied it. So I think for those types of sort of traditional markets, we look for a founder who's not necessarily experienced, but studied, So look, as for the older founders, I think that they're, a time and place. The WhatsApp founders were in their 40s. Like, that also isn't a disqualifying thing. I think the one thing for older founders often, though, is it has to be a thing you can't help but not work on, versus I didn't get the promotion, so I'm going to go be a founder if that feels high status. I think having that kind of authentic connection to the problem is the reason you keep going when it's rational to quit. And every founder has had a moment like that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. We got a big round of applause.